For game production, I was charged with creating of character. I took reference with Gant's type of suit. It's an anime suit, but the character I was supposed to create was like sci-fi character that was supposed to be built up on a factory conveyor belt from bottom up. Modeling and baking the suit and the actual character took about. For the character, I also did all the shaders, all the variations of the shaders, and the character was supposed to be the main attraction, but the project got paused, so I also did these other materials and all sorts of paneling and shaders for the scene also for us to use. I used PBR methods for all of these. For Ludum there, I was tasked with creating a Victorian type of girl. I was the character artist also, but I also did the animation rigging and all the unwraps for all of these characters. I did one character model, the girl, and another character model, the hand. The girl character model had two different type of modes, so to say. During the daytime, the girl would be a normal human being, but during the nighttime, she would shift into this ghost-like form, and they would both have different types of animations depending of the girl's or time of the day. And during the nighttime, the girl would like float up in the air and be more fluid, and during the daytime, she would be just running around. The girl doesn't have anything else but running and idling animations for both day and night. The enemy character class was supposed to be chasing the girl during the nighttime, and the nighttime was supposed to be happening at random. At the moment we have it by key press. The enemies would wake up during the night time, and they would be these puddle type of deals during the daytime, and during nighttime the puddles start to move, and they would move completely random, and if they would collide with the player character, they would sort of drag the player character down with them. It's this big hand that comes out of the puddle. The hand itself was supposed to be this demonic hand that will drag your soul to hell, or at least that was what I was after with this character design and animations. In the actual gameplay, you were supposed to be avoiding the enemies during the nighttime, and the nighttime would switch on from the daytime to nighttime randomly. At the moment we have it with key press for the testing purposes. What you should note is during the daytime the character's skirt is below the ground, so during the nighttime we could lift up the character a little bit higher up, so we could add like these alpha maps for the skirt, so it would create like this ghostly effect of transparency. When the two characters collide, the hand will capture the girl. This activates the game over screen. For this game jam, I was also in charge of the characters. I did concept art, modeling, rigging, and animation. The topic for the game was You Are the Bad Guy, so we chose Frost Giant as the bad guy and Vikings that will be coming after the Frost Giant as the enemy character. With this project I was able to test a little bit around with shared rigs, so I used the same animations for both the Frost Giant and the Viking character. With this method I was able to finish up model, rig and animations for both characters per day, like one character per day. I feel that learning wise that was the most valuable point for me, because in game jams you really do have really tight time constraints. The downwards attack with the hands was left out from the game because it wasn't readable from the perspective we had in the game. While I was designing both the Viking and the Frost Giant characters, I had to be really considerate about how we would look from top-down view because of our perspective in the game. I also had to do some modifications with the animations for attacking and idling for the Viking character because he's holding weapons in his hands. So that was something that I had to figure out how to do with the shared rec system. The animations for the attacking for both characters had to be sped up quite a lot, so my original timing was a bit off. My main point is to become a character artist, so I found these last two game jams really helpful in the sense that I really need to understand how the rigging and animations work, and also what do I need to modify or change in the later parts so that the animation and rigging would be much easier. It's usually in the topology wise, like where all the animation loops will be going and all that. In our game, you would actually try to first avoid the enemies, and there will be 4 enemies coming after you all at all times, and if you kill all the 4 enemies, there will be a new patch of 4 enemies coming at you. But there is a possibility if you avoid the enemies, your health will regen, and this gives you much better chance to get a higher score at our game. But you have to be really careful, since when the Vikings get close and start attacking you, the health will drop drastically and fast. This Forest Guardian project was my personal one, and it was mainly for me to learn sculpting and how to do a concept art for that cause. I used this creature character because I felt that I could get more out of it, learning wise, and of course, besides sculpting, this project has taught me also how to plan ahead a little bit, and when I did my own concept art for this, I had to design also the actual model and what I'm gonna sculpt later on. Also, how am I gonna retopologize it and bake the normal maps for the retopolized model. I used also the low poly models topology to maintain a really interesting silhouette for the high poly version, even without any maps on. And this can be seen mostly on the fur section of the model and how I've done the fur peaks. For this model, I seeked out any reference photos or concept art that I could find and tried to match the concept closely as possible. And if I did do any changes, like let's say the bottom fin of the shark, which I left out because I thought that it might actually hinder the movement of the character on ground, which it clearly has evolved more into. Design-wise, I still feel that I'm a little bit lacking with the decisions I'm making and justifying them, but I feel that the character otherwise has been pretty successful. I did also learn how to do different types of sculpting and retopolizing and baking with this one also. I also tried to learn ZBrush's polypaint function. Looking back now, I'd say I changed few things with my model, with my sculpt. When I was sculpting this, I wasn't thinking too far ahead with when I was following the concept art, because, for example, the hind leg of the creature is not animatable in any single way. So that would be something that I would actually think beforehand, like how this will be handled after my sculpting process and my retopology process. The high poly model that I showcase here in Sketchfab was painted in ZBrush, and I feel that it came out really well. I also did the changes with the color. I felt that the bright yellow color for the shark was a little bit too much. I mean, the shark probably does most of its hunting by lurking and all that, so darker color like red might suit it way better. But for my next model, I will probably try to follow the concept art as closely as possible, and the creature or character afterwards, that I will probably just try to design based on what I've learned so far. And this concludes my video. Here's still the credits, and thanks to the people who have helped and who I've used as reference material. Thanks.